It's about 10 o'clock. Tired, but I wanted to talk, get some things off my chest, and talk about what's been going on. Things have been changing around. Some are staying the same, and some are getting a little better. Some are getting a little worse. If you followed my last videos, you know I've been in a really bad wave, which could have came from many directions, which could have been from overdoing it, weather change. I had this major inflammation in my cornea, and I had to do some steroid drops. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but I always say things compound, even if it's small, and eventually it just builds up, doing a ton of things at once. We had some weather change big time. I had a problem with my tailbone and back. Um, let's see, there's a bunch of stuff I don't remember off the top of my head, but everything was compounding and everything got pretty bad. But things got really bad after I went to the doctor to get my hand checked for the tingling and numbness. They did a nerve test, and I didn't really think much about it because I wasn't sure what they were going to do. But it ended up being a nerve stimulation test, and that's how they find out I have a pinched nerve in my elbow, which I'll have to go to the doctor for and talk to them about. But anyway, it's not the hugest deal ever, but the test was a huge deal because they basically put like 50 electric currents through my arm, through my neck, and apparently through my spine, which I couldn't feel, but he said he did. So, and since I was already in bad shape from then, it was like a day and a half later, I just crashed. Um, my perception is really screwed up again. Like, I can't even like watch TV because my excitatory sensories are so insane. Um, one of the symptoms that was getting better because this started before that whole test, but I started getting major pressure in my head again, and I was getting this crawling in my head and a lot of symptoms I had years ago, but that's starting to subside. Thank goodness for the morphing of symptoms because sometimes, oh, I can't deal. That was a rough one. Um, if anybody's out there, you want to say hi, go for it. If you have questions, ask away. I try to answer later, but I've been on here a lot more, but I do my best to try to answer if I can. Um, so my body physical symptoms are still really terrible. A lot of bit of akathisia, nothing too major. But I'm getting a lot of crawling in my legs. Um, burning skin, and I mean I get that to a point a lot, but this was pretty rough. My head just feels like it's getting locked in mentally. I feel like I'm slightly more tripping on acid like I did was years and years ago. I feel more like a zombie. Like when I watch TV, like my sensories are just weird and things just slightly sound off and weird. Like I'm not fully engaged in this reality. Like I'm just slightly off kilter. It's, I remember this years ago, and you know, it took years to get rid of, but I've been in kind of a decent uh, plateau of how my head can handle like watching TV and stuff like that. It hasn't changed much in a long time until now. Um, I started eating really crappy. Nothing major, to the average person, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I started eating some fried foods more often. I usually can once in a while, but I was eating some fried foods, and then I started eating a lot of cheese, which I haven't done in 7 years. And if it has anything to do with histamine, I was just went crazy with cheese and had a lot of popcorn. I haven't eaten corn in 7 years. It's just I did a lot of stupid things, and normally they just give me like a food wave, but it was different. It was different this time. Hey Ty, do you get bad tinnitus? Well, I'll try to explain. I've had tinnitus since I was a teenager, being in bands, and I didn't wear hearing protection, so I always have tinnitus, always do. When I got off of benzos, my tinnitus was horrific. When my waves are really bad, my tinnitus gets really high. But for some reason, this wave, it's not affecting my regular tinnitus. So let's cross our fingers it stays like that. Yeah, avocado is a gift from my girlfriend. I love it. It always makes me smile. Does again. It's cute as shit. Love it. Um. Anyway, so I would say I taper. I'm still tapering Remeron. Like, long story short, I've been off of benzos for 7.5 years, and I tapered a bunch of drugs and that they put me on, and I've been tapering my last drug, Remeron, for quite a while, and I probably have a few years to go because I can barely taper it. It's so fucking disgustingly hard, and I have to try to live my life to a point and work and stuff like that. So it's been hell. And sometimes I fall into these waves and it makes it even longer. So then I lose my thought and train of thought. But yeah. So I tapered Remeron about 2.5 months ago. I never know how much it affects me or not. Sometimes it's like I can't even fucking tell. Um, the time I tapered before that, the Remeron, I tapered and it was like 4 months later, and then I tapered again. So this is kind of weird though, because 2.5 months, well, I'd say it's 2 months and 2.5 months. Um, yeah, 2.5 definitely. Um, I don't know if it's a delay or what I think is like after I tapered, I really didn't do any. I kind of just kept doing my life, even though it was harder. I just tolerated it, and I think by doing all the things that I was doing, by overdoing it on a more fragile nervous system, it got more compounded and more compounded and more compounded to the point that it turned into what it is right now, which is completely screwed up. It took me out physically, and then it did everything it could, I felt, for it not to be completely mental, which is usually my strongest symptoms for mental symptoms. Um, but this time it's taken my perception into a weird direction. Hello. Happy Thanksgiving to all you as well. It's been a long haul of almost 7 years of side effects from those drugs, symptoms up and down, but we will get there. Yeah, same here. It's weird. Um, Tapering Remeron has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. Benzos was a bitch and scary as fuck, and it pretty much disabled me. And then I tapered some other stuff that they put me on, but I did it pretty quick. And after that, I was still tapering Remeron slowly but surely throughout, trying to survive because I was with a person then that was pretty much okay with the fact that I would be working full time still. And so at that time, I couldn't not work. So I had to even keep the taper slower. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably be really close to being off right now. But I was fairly taken advantage of then in those days. Um, Now, I have great support, and but I would love that support and not be in a weird perception head, because it's scary and it's hard to live my life and be really, really, really happy because it's always there because you feel disabled all the time. It's no good. I'd rather have physical problems over mental problems any day. I've said it for 7.5 years. Um, I can do so much more when I'm physically unable than when I'm mentally unable. Now I've got both going on. The mental is probably a slight touch better today. The sensories are still pretty like extreme, but probably a couple percentages better right now. But that's not saying much because it's pretty fucking bad. Yeah. So it leaves me to come on here more often and talk about it. I don't come on too often just to be super positive, which I should, but I just, when I'm doing okay and I'm at my baseline and things are just kind of up and down, blah, blah, I don't see the point to continually talk about it and remind myself. But when things like this happen, it scares the shit out of me. And it's weird because 7.5 years you would think it's not going to be as scary anymore. Oh, but it is. It's still scary. I can't not be scared of it because it's always different and we're pretty much in this on our own. I mean, you can have support, but it's still your problem that you have to deal with. You have to deal with the physical and mental symptoms of it. And that alone is scary because it's not like you have a doctor that's going, oh, I know exactly what's going on. All you have to do is this and that, and you'll be on your way to healing and all that. Doctors don't know anything about it. It's such a small percentage of people that get in this position, or especially being extremely protracted like me and some other people here. I remember, what was it? Protracted was like 18 months. I'm like, oh, I better be better before then. Oh, not even close. If I would have known it was going to be like this back then, I would have never done it. I would have never made it. So I guess it's good when you don't know. Um, the world is definitely a weird place. And even hearing my own voice is kind of strange again. Things need to settle down. And that makes it for, around the holidays it's hard, but I'm trying to be thankful, you know, for what I do have and what I'm able to still do. But I started living my life again. I mean, it was nowhere easy and I suffer every day. But I came to a point mentally that I could do stuff. And it's still hard. Like I said, it's still hard. I go out and my mental symptoms do play tricks on me all the time. My anxiety fuels those symptoms too. So I do still live in a weird world, but I'm able to do those things. But now the problem is that I've overdone it. And who knows, like I've eaten food out and about. I don't know. I don't ask every place if their food has alcohol in it. Yeah, you have to. I try to make my best judgments and stuff like that. And I think I might have to start asking more questions because I don't know if I have had anything that could affect me. I mean, Do my GABA receptors, are they still damaged? I don't fucking know. Maybe not. Maybe eating food with alcohol in it wouldn't even affect me. I mean, maybe it's all just nervous system damage from still being on Remeron and I can't heal correctly. Don't know. Don't know. I wish I knew because this up and down bullshit is crazy. Crazy, absolutely nuts. You just never know. You just never know. I would think after 7.5 years that shit would be healed. But I just don't know. It's not like I'm going to go drink, though, and find out. Because I'm sure alcohol would fuck me up, especially with its histamine content. But the alcohol itself is like a fucking bullet. I would never, I don't think I'll ever drink again, to be honest. I'm going through a decade of hell almost. I have no reason to have a glass of wine, ever. It's like, I try to put it in this way, it's like a peanut allergy. You know, it's like, it's just something you can't fuck with. And the alcohol to benzo person is like a bullet, and peanut dust to a person who's allergic to peanuts. You know, you can't even inhale the dust. So it's like I try to be that vigilant about it, but I still have no idea if it would even affect me in small amounts. I just know that there's a pretty good chance it could. Um, when I think about it, I think about, hmm, you know, we've eaten some food at a bar. I had some chicken with fries, but I've asked and they said they don't cook any food with alcohol unless it's like a certain sauce. And I have to trust that, you know. And I can't have gluten, but then again, I had their chicken with breading, so I know it was gluten. And just another thing I did that I probably shouldn't, to make things worse. Things get really serious when the perception goes weird and my anxiety goes so weird. And then I started having morning terrors this morning, just like the old days. I woke up in terror, complete paranoia. Feel like I'm losing it. Just feel like I'm completely losing it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to be off here in about a few minutes, 5 minutes. Tired. I've been in these groups and stuff like that for so long. And I went back into one of the groups uh, and I looked around and I don't see many people that I used to talk to. I mean, not that I really talked to many people, but like commented back and forth, you know. And everybody's new and everybody's scared and, you know, it's I don't really like going into the groups, but I figured I'd go in and I had a question or two, and usually I don't get any answers because people just they don't want to talk to people like me who've been off for so long, and they'll be like, "Well, this is why you're fucked up. This is why you're fucked up," and they want to make sure that I know that I'm fucked up for what reason or another because they don't want to say that they're they don't want to think that it could happen to them. Does meditation or sensory deprivation help? Well, meditation I try. Like right now, it doesn't help just because I can't slow down my brain enough to even meditate. I try anyway. Sensory deprivation? No, I have no idea. I still have issues. Let's see. I still have issues with doctors. I get so triggered by them not listening to me and thinking they know everything. Yeah, well, what's funny is I don't even tell doctors anymore. I've had so many doctors in the last 7.5 years because a lot of times they just go to another hospital or something, and then you have to get a new one. And I was telling my story over and over again. If I do tell my story, I'll be like, yes, I have a lot of symptoms left over. Like my doctor knows now, and I'll be like, yeah, I got cut off of benzos and all this stuff, and I have leftover problems from it. And she's just like, I won't even prescribe benzos unless I really have to. She's like, I've heard too many horror stories. I'm like, that's the first doctor I've ever had that actually said that. But it's not like she can do anything. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether they believe me or not, it just doesn't matter because they can't do anything anyway. She can help me with any prescription I do have, but that's it. Like once in a great while, I'll take gabapentin when I'm suffering way too much because it does help. I mean, it calms down the nervous system. But then again, I don't suggest it because literally the lashback I get of symptoms after, like, okay, so you got gabapentin, say, and then you here's my excitatory, and then I take gabapentin, then it fucking calms the fuck down, and I finally feel better. Well, after a few days, usually about a day and a half, as a normal person, it would go back to where it was. But for me, it goes fucking crazy for a long time. And it could be weeks before I start to calm down. So it's not really worth it. I have to do it if I'm like getting triggered by intrusive thoughts and I can't control it and things get too scary. Then I will. But I have it on hand if I wanted to. But I would never take that normally. Never. But I don't suggest any kind of meds for anybody, but that's just me, what I've done to try to survive this. And usually it just makes me worse. Just not in the moment when I take it. It doesn't make me worse. But my doctor's pretty cool. But it doesn't make a difference anyway. It just doesn't matter. I've had a new psychiatrist, just to keep me with the Remeron. And had to do that, start all over with that. It's been a lot of doctor's appointments too for me. Nothing that I like need, but I had to go just to keep up with stuff. But yeah, that's about it, I guess. I just things have been so fucking hard lately that I don't even really know what to do. I just need my perception, and I'm thinking the anxiety is just spiking that up big time. I haven't had weird perception in years. I mean, it's always a little off. Oh, gabapentin. Yeah, that's the only taper you have left, but my nervous system took so many hits. I am very leery to try after benzodiazepines and Remeron, especially Remeron. I mean, that is so hard to taper after benzos. It's unreal. And I still don't know after 2.5 months if I'm actually having issues from that taper. I just don't know. I wish I knew more when I did this stuff. It would make more sense. But gabapentin's supposed to be a brutal one to come off. But, you know, it's got to be done. It's the name of the game. In order to really, and I've seen it so many times. People, I do get jealous of people who weren't polydrugged. I'm jealous of the people who were just on benzos. They get off of benzos, they suffer for a couple of years, which sucks, but then they start living their lives and acting like nothing different. Like they were never fucked up. And here I am 7.5 years later, still trying to get off all these dumb drugs. So, I mean, realistically, after Remeron, the only thing I would have to get off of was Prilosec. And that's the last thing I've been worried about, you know. But that's not a psych drug, so it should be a little different. but give me some physical shit, but I ain't worried about it. But yeah, I'm struggling bad, and I'm just doing the best I can to get through it. And I just do the videos so I can vent about it, talk about it, learn from it. Maybe somebody else can learn from my experience. You know, it's like you think you're doing pretty decent, even though life's really fucking hard and your baseline is still rough. And then you start trying to live your life, and you're like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like I can do a lot of things, but it's the backlash of hell. And it takes a while for this shit to happen for me. Like, every time I do something that's going to fuck me up, it usually starts like a week later, and it'll just get worse and worse and worse. Anyway, I'm going to head off here. I'm getting pretty fucking tired. I just wanted to talk and vent some of my frustrations about this. But anyway, it's appreciate y'all, and you know, if you can get any help from these videos, that's cool. Um, there's a lot of relatability to our stories, and it's nice to know that we're not alone, because we're not. But it's really complicated to live in a world where you can start getting better slowly but surely over years, and then fall back into a place that you never thought you would fall back into. I never thought I'd be here again. Not like this. It's a lot. I never thought I'd have some of these symptoms. And I just have to hope that my nervous system's not still getting worse, that it plateaus and starts getting better. Like I said at the beginning of this video, my head pressure and the crawling in my head is a lot less. So that's good. I just need the anxiety and fear and a lot of that stuff to calm down. And I think the perception would start to calm down then. But anyway, I'm off here. You have a great night. I have a high probability that I'll be on a bunch more until this wave kind of goes through, and you know, that way you can see, you know, I can look back at it and see where I was a week ago versus now and stuff like that, and see how long it really took to get through some of the harder stuff. But anyway, yeah, we'll all get there. So anyway, take care.